Now then, Ross, we are off to the south coast of Islay with this next tasting. We have 3 heavyweights of single malt whiskey.
We do.
The 3 distilleries all within a stone's throw of each other, near Port Ellen on the island of Peat, island of Islay. We have Ardbeg, Laphroaig, and Lagavulin. You've said a few times before you don't love smoky whiskey. This must be your idea of hell.
This is officially Ross's pre-season.
Okay.
Going to Islay for Phage this year for the first time, and so this is me manning up and kind of braving it out.
Throwing yourself in the deep end.
I've got to do it. I got to try these drams because there's no secret. Normally a heavily peated style kicks my arse. I really don't have the palate to often get beyond the peat. I love Bowmore, I love Talisker, I like those lightly peated styles because I find more complexity in them.
Yeah.
I generally struggle with this style.
Do you find them a bit kind of one-dimensional? Do you feel like being hit her in the head with a lump of peat?
Yeah, I think I'm going to find these are all quite different. I know I have enjoyed Ardbeg 10, I have enjoyed Lagavulin 16, and I've had some of the older expressions of Laphroaig where the peat has really settled down.
Yeah.
What we've got here, because I think it's really interesting, is the youngest kind of age statements from each distillery and their kind of core ranges. So the Ardbeg 5 wee Beastie, Lagavulin 8-year-old, and Laphroaig 10, all ranging between 35 and 45 pounds a bottle.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting because I know they're all going to be quite different. So although, it's not really my style, I'm pretty confident I'll be able to come out with a first, second, and third in my kind of preferences. You like this style of whiskey?
I
do. You have any kind
I
of
think I don't.
into...
I like it. I think if I'm in the mood for it, I can enjoy all 3, quite a lot. I think the age statements thing is interesting because, for those who aren't aware, the smokiness basically dissipates with age. But then the amount of smoke that you get in the new make depends on how they've produced it, how much ppm and all this sort of thing.
And there'll be a lot of people who are casual whiskey drinkers, so go 5 years old, 8 years old. I would never drink whiskey at that age. But it is all just incorrect marketing and preconceived notions. A peaty, smoky whiskey, if you want something that's authentically, heavily, peaty, rich, full-bodied, with all that flavour...
The younger the better.
The younger the better, which is why this has been such a successful product for Ardbeg.
Yeah.
And it certainly turned my head when it came out, because it's called the Wee Beastie, which is great already. But being a 5-year-old, I can't remember somebody putting a 5-year-old core product out there that was also a success.
I think I can't think of any other sort of core range single malt expressions when the age statement is as low as that. And I think it is great because it shows that it's not just about the age. So I think it's, unapologetically saying this is 5 years old. And that's totally fine.
And we think our spirit works at 5 years old.
Yeah.
And Lagavulin 8's been going for a long time as well. So again, we think Lagavulin 8 works at that style. Laphroaig 10 is the one that you see in every bar across the world, representing the island. I have met so many people who say, my first whiskey was Laphroaig. I don't know
Scarred for life.
I don't know why people do this to others. Like it's, oh, you like whiskey, you want to drink a Scotch whiskey, have a Laphroaig.
Yeah.
And they put that off them for years because it's meant to be this kind of iodine TCP. It's certainly the most chalk and cheese of the 3, I would say. Like a lot of people really struggle with the idea of Laphroaig.
I mean, it's in the same, like all 3 are big and all 3 are very smoky, which I think why trying them head to head makes sense. I think it was, I think pre-match predictions, I think I'm probably going to enjoy the Lagavulin the most, I think. And probably Laphroaig the least, which is interesting because it's the oldest.
I think looking at it on paper, I drink a lot of whiskey, you drink a lot of whiskey. One thing that I noticed straight away was the presentations in terms of the strength. So Laphroaig bottled at 40%. I've said to you many times before, they're stealing whiskey from me. They've watered it down to the legal minimum. I know it's still full of flavour because of the style of whiskey they produce. But I feel like I'm going to miss that little bit of I'm drinking whiskey here. Lagavulin 8-year-old bottled at 48%. Now it sounds like the higher the ABV, the better. It's not always the case, but that's generous. They're giving us, it's kind of like getting squash from concentrate. It's up to us how we want to manage it. We can dilute it and play around with it. And then Ardbeg, I think, is 46%. I could be wrong.
47.4.
Wow. Okay, so another really nice strength, nice presentation.
So these 2 very similar strength. This is a chunk less.
Yeah, and so we'll see how that affects it. Let's get them poured and see what we think. What's going to be the best to start smelling at? I would guess maybe the Lagavulin.
You think?
again,
I know.
they're all quite big, right? So
If you're doing these head to head with any other whiskey, you'd put them all
last, yeah.
Well,
No.
something needs to go first. Oh, Ardbeg's like like barbecue sauce. Jeez.
You visited all 3 of these distilleries,
Yes, yeah. I mean, if you go to one, there's no reason not to go to the other.
I suppose.
2, 'cause they're
Right next door.
Right next door. Yeah, all great
Yeah.
places to visit. I think the iconic sort of white walls with the name of the distillery inside is amazing. I think if anybody ever gets a chance to fly to the island, it's great because you can see all 3 distilleries from
That's
there,
amazing.
which is really, really
Yeah,
special.
I've done a tour at Lagavulin. I've done a kind of warehouse experience with a guy called Ian MacArthur,
Yes.
who was a kind of warehouseman for so long on the island. And again, I didn't really like smoky whiskey,
Okay.
but because that was my kind of christening onto the island, he actually poured Lagavulin in his hand and wiped it into my hair when I told him it was the first time I'd been on the island.
That's hilarious.
I was like, oh, okay, I'm a bit nervous.
These islanders are a bit strange.
But
yeah.
it was one of those things, it was a welcoming to the island that I will never forget.
Yeah.
And I got to try a full range of Lagavulins. So I'm a little bit more comfortable with this, I feel. Whereas my father loves the other 2 drams, but I'm almost so familiar with them being in the house growing up that I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
I think we start with the Lagavulin first because it's, well...
Should we do it in terms of ABV?
Yeah,
that makes sense?
okay, yeah. So we start with the Laphroaig.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
I mean, that sounds wrong, doesn't it? Let's start with Laphroaig.
This is the one that I'm most afraid of.
Okay. Let's do it anyway.
So
it'll be funny. Yeah.
the nose, again, I actually, to be honest, I'm not sure I've ever had Laphroaig 10 neat. Now that I say it out loud, I'm like, I'm not sure.
Sorry, rub it in your hair.
It's more welcoming than I thought it would be.
Like, it's not wild Laphroaig 10.
Well, you always hear iodine, TCP, tar. You know, these kind of big...
And I feel
almost
like
tries
that's
to scare you
part
off.
of their marketing campaign, I think. They love, evocative tasting notes. And we've spoken before about, people saying it's like licking an ashtray and French kissing a mermaid and all this sort of stuff.
It's bold, it is peaty, but it's not iodine, TCP. It's not like being in a hospital like I thought it would be. At 40%, I'm imagining it's going to be very easy to drink.
Yeah. It's smoky. I don't think, compared to some of the other stuff we've had, like, young Kalila or, other sort of even things like Laphroaig and kind of younger Taliskers, I think it's fine. I don't think it's monstrous at all.
It's an intense peat for me. But there is there is a subtle sweetness. The nose is way more welcoming. The palate is Laphroaig in the way that I think they want it to be. It's a little bit much for me. It's a big ashy smoke. And I can't really get past anything else to really get out. But I'm glad. So you think this is actually more welcoming than previous times?
I think it's a decent dram. And I think Laphroaig...
It's very easy drinking.
If I'm in a bar with a pretty poor selection and I'm in the mood for whiskey, I'm after a, intense tasting experience, often the selection isn't great. So you think, Glenfiddich, no point. John Walker Black, forget it. If it's Laphroaig, that'll do.
It is always the one that you see. No matter where you are in the world, if they've got one Isle of whiskey, it's normally a Laphroaig 10. So good for them to manage to do that. I feel so weird that we started with that.
Yeah, a nice gentle introduction to our
let's
showdown.
Go for Lagavulin.
Yeah, strong start actually from Laphroaig. I think prior to this I thought this would be the one that would struggle.
In comparison, this is so much sweeter on the nose. But again, it's not a whiskey people would straight away go, that's very sweet. And they associate all of these with just those big, evocative, smoky, peaty notes. But it's got a real freshness to it. It's very pale.
I know the 16-year-old, which was their sort of core range expression for a long time, was quite like fishy and quite kippery to me. There's not as much of that coming through with the 8-year-old.
I think it was almost kind of like a citrus, like maybe even lemongrass. Like it's really fresh with a smoke kind of behind it. But the nose of both of them has been more welcoming than I remember.
Yeah, that's lovely.
At 48%, do you feel like you get a bit more?
It's a much more full-on experience, and I feel like the smoke just sort of bellows, and it's just much more full-bodied. Really pleasant.
Ooh.
Yeah, you're right. Do you need to sit
Also
down? Do you
very
need to sit down?
smoky.
Are you fine?
Yeah, this is okay. I might have to go back to the Laphroaig to see. Anyway.
I felt like that was really good insight going from Laphroaig to Laphroaig. That's also very smoky. Yeah.
I wonder what Ardbeg is going to be like.
Oh, that's also very
Yeah, let's have a little look at Ardbeg.
I think of the two, like they're different.
You get more texture on the Lagavulin, but that probably comes with the strength.
Yeah.
What's your? You got an immediate comparison?
Laphroaig was better than I thought, but Lagavulin edges it of the two so far. Ardbeg, what do you think of nose?
Least appealing nose to me
Okay.
straight away, which is interesting because I thought the Laphroaig would have the least appealing nose. A little peppery. There's peat there again, of course. Maybe is a bit.
Yeah, that's
Isn't that interesting? Because again, that's one that I've had before, but in comparison, immediately after the others, I find the most astringent on the nose.
It's quite like vegetal and quite like, I don't know, quite boggy on the aromas.
Have a little taste.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if I love the nose of that.
It actually strangely seems like the least welcoming nose to me. I'm glad you agree, because you actually know what you're talking about when it comes to smoky whiskey.
Yeah.
What's
Got
your
a
palate?
savoury bitterness actually, and I always associate with Ardbeg with being quite sweet. Like the 10-year-old, for example, has a lovely sweetness on the finish. Yeah, that's not as refined as I'd hoped.
Shot caller, also very peaty.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Captain Obvious.
I really like the palate there, which is not what I expected. I'm going to have a little smell of all of them again. I think, interestingly, the nose. I think I like the Laphroaig nose the best.
Okay.
Which I can't believe. It's something that you don't do. You go into a bar, you order a whiskey, you drink a whiskey. You don't often go in, order three, and try them side by side. But what an interesting thing to do.
Yeah. I think it is like all three. If you're looking for, a good value, heavily peated single malt,
Yeah.
they'll do the job.
I think even at 40%, you won't find another 40% whiskey with as much flavour as Laphroaig. I think that's really impressive. That's obviously their kind of DNA. Lagavulin's got the best texture for me, a welcoming nose. None of the palates are my style.
Okay.
But the Lagavulin would be my preference.
Okay.
On the palate, I'd then probably go Ardbeg and then Laphroaig. But the Laphroaig's probably the one that surprised me the most.
Yeah, I struggled with the Ardbeg.
Yeah?
I think.
It's interesting because you're a big Ardbeg fan.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I think it's the first time I've actually had the wee beast.
Okay.
And I'd heard great things about it, and obviously whiskey's subjective. I'm sure there'll be thousands of people in the comments. What do you mean wee beastie is the best value for money Islay malt?
I think for £30, you've got to give it a lot of credit for sure.
But from a purely sort of taste perspective, for me, Lagavulin is
Lagavulin's a winner.
the winner. Laphroaig maybe second place.
Okay, interesting. That was quite fun. I feel my pre-season is developing. Hopefully by the time we're on Islay, I'll be able to put a smiley face on when I drink this.
I know, you didn't spit any out, so
I didn't
surpassed my expectations.
My table manners are all right.
Yeah, so your favourite overall was?
Lagavulin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed again, how boring. So yeah, trying these three head-to-head has been a great experiment, actually, because I think, if you're in a shop, if you're trying to buy your first bottle of smoky whiskey, often you'll be split between these three.
Yeah.
If you are into smoky whiskey, chances are you've got one, maybe two, maybe even all three of them. And I think it was interesting that our sort of predictions beforehand were quite different to what the actual experience was.
Yeah.
And I think something like this actually would be great to do blind, where if I just poured you one and said, what do you think of that? Is that Laphroaig, is it Lagavulin, or is it Ardbeg? Because it's so difficult to tell. So yeah, a real great experiment, something that could easily be replicated at home.
Yeah.
Or even if you're out at a bar.
If somebody's if people have got these expressions at home, try them. Tell us what you think. Try them side by side like we're doing.
Yeah.
It might surprise you because it surprised me 100%.
Yeah. Do it on Tuesday, then a Wednesday, then a Thursday. Let us know what was your favourite, and but three really good whiskies.
And what a fun way to do it.
Yeah. Very much. Oh well. Cheers.
Cheers.
If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Bevvy content. We want to hear what you think, your best whiskey experiences, the whiskies you want us to try. It's a really exciting journey we're on, so make sure to join us. Download the Bevvy app on Google Play and App Store to keep track of your whiskey journey, connect with your whiskey friends, keep track of your favourites, anything you could ever want to do with whiskey, all in one place. It's the definitive whiskey companion.